Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. Today we're going to be talking about my top 5 favorite bourbons that I got to review here in 2023. And this year I really did a big deep dive on it. 2022 I did a lot more scotches, where this year I really honed in the nuanced differences when it comes to bourbon. And honestly, it was a really hard list to kind of narrow down to just 5. But these are my personal 5 favorites. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. Whether you've had these, whether you agree, disagree, or just in general, what are your 5 favorite bourbon whiskeys of 2023? Also to note, if you're interested in any of the in-depth reviews over my top 5, they will be linked up above and down below, so you can check those out after this video. And also hang around, subscribe to the channel, become a member if you'd like, and we will be doing a top 5 over my favorite ryes and my favorite finished whiskeys as well. So you'll want to stay tuned for those. So let's jump into it. So coming in at number 5 is a distillery a lot of people haven't really heard much about, and that is Glenns Creek. This is out of Kentucky, and they moved into the Old Crow Distillery, built their own still, and they are doing phenomenal things. Specifically, Cafe Au Lait here blew me out of the water when I visited the location. They're using a roasted barley in the build, bringing across some beautiful chocolate notes, and just in general, some awesome classic Kentucky, but that chocolate twist in there. Keeping it a good proof to this one is at 51.3. They don't hold to any kind of timeline or forcing their barrels to do something that they are not meant to do. And you got to give credit to the craft. But right away, it's got this gorgeous coffee, almost liqueur note to it. Dark black coffee, little espresso bean going on in there. Almost like a chocolate covered espresso bean, to be honest. But as you keep going back to it, it gets a little bit more creamier, a little more vanilla, and you get kind of those classic bourbon notes. Bring across the oak vanilla caramel, a little bit of barrel spice in there too. But right away, that roasted barley in this really shines through. It is a gorgeous nose. And it comes across in the taste as well, greeting you right away with that roasted dark black coffee of a higher grade. But then it kind of shifts into a little bit of sugary sweetness with that bit of vanilla oak and caramel going on from those classic notes. It is a uniquely beautiful sip that does not play by the rules. Now, a lot of things coming out of Glenns Creek are distillery exclusive, so you do have to visit the location. Highly recommended. If you go to the Castle and Key Distillery, they're literally like 4 minutes up the road. You can blink and pass it, but it's highly on my list of places to visit because they are doing some amazing things with craft whiskey. And that's why it deserves number 5 on my list. Coming in at number 4 was kind of a late entry to my race, but quickly bypassed so many people in front of it. And that's Penelope Barrel Select 9 Year. This is what blending can do. What Penelope does is just phenomenal. They more recently showed up here in Indiana, and they brought almost every expression so far, and they're just knocking it out of the park. And this one, originally, I was planning on not going to pick it up. It was like, I've got so many things on my list, but I ended up talking myself into it, and just because I found it at that right price, and I go, okay, I'll take a bite. I see a lot of people enjoying this. Right away, you get that corn sweetness in here, a little buttery sweet corn, and then it opens up to a lot of those classic bourbon notes. Oak, vanilla, caramel, sweetness in there as well. The rye spice is just peeking through, bringing across a little bit of herbal and medicinal. It means that this is a blend of both MGP and Kentucky whiskey. It's gorgeous on the nose. Coming at barrel proof, 9 years old. Can't argue with that at all. And that's just gorgeous on the palate. It coats to a T. Even though it's kind of that low ABV at 54%, it just clings very, very well. Right away, greeted with that bit of corn sweetness, little dustiness, and that rye spice. Even though there's a very low percentage of rye in there, it really does shine through just enough to give you those reminiscent rye, spicy, herbal, medicinal, little floral in there as well. You do get a bit of the grain notes in there as well from the barley and wheat, bringing across just a tad bit of waxiness for me. As you keep going back, the wheat and barley build in here, even though they are very low percentages, brings across just a light bit of waxiness on the palate. But overall, this screams classic bourbon whiskey, and it's just cranked up with that 9-year age statement, really bringing across the sweet flavors, the oakiness, bit of orange zest in there as well, and it just classifies itself as a beautiful blended whiskey, bringing across MGP and Kentucky notes in a gorgeous bottle. Big thumbs up on this one. Coming in at number 3 shouldn't be much of a surprise if you're a viewer of the channel. It's Ben Holladay Bottled in Bond with a twist. Both versions. To be honest, Ben Holladay just came out swinging, bringing out 2 Bottled in Bond 6-year-old bourbons. And the cool thing about these 2 is they're identical in everything besides removing the rye and putting in a wheat profile to the Bottled in Bond wheated version. Both are fantastic bottles. They are hard to argue with. And to be honest, if you see either of them on the shelf, you need to grab them. I love picking these up for new people getting into bourbon and just giving them out as gifts even, because they are at that right price point with that bit of quality going on as well. Right away, you're greeted with not only that dark, heavy oak tannins to the nose, but a bit of caramel, a little bit of dry cinnamon and spices in general. Almost like a baking spice for me today. A little bit of corn dustiness in there. The corn is very present on this one, but overall, a little waxiness in there as well. Got a little bit of that craft note, what I call it. Like well-aged furniture that's been shellacked and well kept. And the taste mimics the nose very closely. You instantly get this dark, heavy oakiness to it. Then it kind of lightens up a little bit with the spices, that nice light caramel notes in there as well. But this is an oaky experience. And for me, I really dig oakiness. The little bit of rye is showing up as well, bringing across a little bit of green grassiness. But overall, this is a well-rounded example of something that's sweet, spicy, oaky, and overall, this is just a pure example of what Missouri can do. You get this oaky and heavy caramels and almost brulee effect going on, mixed in with that bit of spice, and I love that just touch of the rye notes going on in there as well. It's well balanced and just brings across a gorgeous profile to it. And the wheat mimics it very closely. The only big difference is I get more of the wheat kind of spice out of things, along with a bit of a waxiness as well. But both of them are phenomenal bottles that I recommend all the time yet again, because they are just great sips at usually a really solid price point. Coming in at number 2 should be no surprise for anybody in the whiskey community, and that is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C923. This is a 13-year, 7-month-old barrel proof bourbon coming in at 66.5% ABV. After we got the news that Elijah Craig was stripping away that 12-year age statement they've kept on their barrel proof series, a lot of people got disappointed because we were afraid that they were going to start losing out on that character. And then all of a sudden, they just gave us all the middle finger and told us to shut up and let us do what we got to do. Right away, deep, heavy oakiness, oiliness. But then you get this beautiful burst of berries and fruit, like raspberries, blackberries. Just overall fruity spiciness as well. A little bit of clove, cinnamon in there. Almost like a freshly grated cinnamon stick. But that oakiness mixed in there with this bit of vanilla as well gives you almost a berries and cream in a wooden bowl kind of idea going on here. It's really strange to think of it that way. It's warm, it's inviting, it's fruity, it's spicy. Again, for me, it comes across almost like a blackberry, raspberry, blueberry, and you get that bit of spice in there. The vanilla cream really does show up as well. For me, at the finish here is really where that spice characteristic ramps it up a couple more notches. So you get this oakiness and then that beautiful barrel spice going on in there. You get that cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, grandma's kitchen almost spices going on. There's a little bit of nuttiness in here too near the finish. You can't argue with it. It is a gorgeous sip. And coming in at number 1, this surprised me beyond belief, especially being a distillery that just more recently extended into my state. I was floored during my review of this so much that I reviewed it twice because I was sure that I didn't get something right. And it's Journeyman Distillery. This is their popcorn bourbon whiskey. Now, what they mean by that is they're actually using 52% popcorn grade corn in the mash bill itself. And I gotta tell you what, this on the nose, on the taste, and everything in between sounds like a typical bourbon, but how it comes across is just phenomenal. I cannot praise this bottle enough. It is one of my favorite bottles to talk about right now. Also being the fact that they go through the troubles of being kosher, which is a whole different thing. It's USDA organic as well. They go through and do everything to a T. While it may not be as dark as some of the others, it is very heavy. It is fairly dark. Look at that. And on the nose, it comes across gorgeously soft. Little corn sweetness in here. Deep, rich oils going on. A little bit of that waxy craft note, like well-aged furniture, well shellacked. The rye spice in here is not a typical spiciness, but you get a little bit of the herbal and a little floral in there as well. And as you keep going back, you get almost a grain waxy barley note going on here. That is just riding its profile to a T. Beautiful on the palate as well. Corn sweetness right from the get-go, mixed in there with that bit of spice. The oak tannins are just the right amount, giving a little bit of oakiness, but not overbound on those notes. That barrel spice is there with that vanilla and caramel notes, almost like bruleed caramel effect on top of a custard. And then you get this nice, simple barley waxiness going on the taste as well. If you've had anything with a high percentage of barley to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's not off-putting, nor does it dominate the palate, but it just has this beautiful, soft waxiness to it. And as you keep going back, it gets more and more of those rye herbal and floral notes mixed in there with that oakiness, and it just keeps building on it and building on it, giving you just this a good warmth with this bit of spices going on as well. Again, I know it sounds like a typical bourbon. You're like, okay, big deal. But I definitely recommend if you get the opportunity to visit them here in Indiana, this is the only place you can get it. It is worth the drive, worth the visit. Big thumbs up on this one. And there we have it, folks. My top 5, technically 6 if you want to count them, bourbons of 2023. It's been a phenomenal year, and I don't see this train slowing down anytime soon. One other side note is if you're interested in any of my other top 5 favorite bottles of the year, I'm doing a section of rye and finished bottles at least. Those will be linked around here as well, so hang around and check those out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and become a member if you like. And again, if you're interested in any of the individual reviews over these bottles, links to those reviews will be up above and down below, so you can go check them out for a full in-depth coverage over them. And again, if you've got any of your favorite bottles of 2023, let me know down in the comment section below. I love hearing what you guys have to say, and definitely let's make 2024 another amazing year for some spirits. And as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
You know, and I really like it might